So my name is Claireafuajorgensen, and I originally come from Ghana, and I'm married to a Danish man, and we have two kids, and we've been living in Denmark now for almost 2 decades. And you can find me. I'm a marriage coach, a Christian, but I also do coach people that are not believers or don't believe in anything. But my purpose in life, I believe, is to help people save their marriages. So I coach people who are going through challenges in marriage with one purpose: to help you to get over it and save your marriage. And you can find me on claireafuajorgensen.coach. I am on Instagram at marriage saved, and also on Facebook, Marriage Saved. And to just say a little bit about myself, I am very interested in helping people to do the work that it takes to save a marriage. So the underlining word here is do the work, because when a marriage is broken, there is work to be done.
You hear that, everyone? Do the work, right? If you are the table, make sure that you're building that table to be sturdy to uphold and uplift your relationship, because it definitely is important, especially when you take the step to get marriage, because that's a commitment on another level. So Claire, for you, take us through the genesis. How did you get started doing this, and what led you to want to save marriages, maybe for yourself, but of course for many others as well?
Yeah. So I have an interesting story behind it, and I think my story is my main motivation. So, like I said, I've been married almost now for 2 decades, actually. And around the 10-year mark of our marriage, actually before the 10-year mark, we had to go through a lot of infertility, fertility treatments, actually IVF. And that journey was very tough on us. Before the journey itself, I think we started having some challenges, but they were not that difficult or that bad. But when infertility hits, actually, we struggled quite a lot. We struggled to talk about it. We struggled to, I was on hormones all the time because I was doing a lot of IVFs. And yeah, we had issues in the marriage. And we were hoping that having kids would actually solve all our problems. We had kids and we were so happy, yet we still had challenges between the two of us. So our story, after 10 years, at the 11th year mark, we actually decided we don't know what to do with this marriage. Let's just go our ways. So we actually got divorced. And after we got divorced, we hated each other. Let me just say this. We hated each other so much that, life was going to be very tough to raise two kids together. I mean, we were sane with each other and we were not fighting around the kids, but we were not in a good place with each other. And I remember sitting down and thinking, is this going to be it? My kids here one week and there the other week. And one Christmas I was alone, because he had the kids, and I was thinking, ooh, life is going to be interesting. So I thought, what if we could get to a good place together, even though we are not together? What if we could actually even have Christmas together? Because I wasn't married and he wasn't married yet. He was in a relationship, actually. But what if we could all get along, even though we are in this, messy situation? So I started a journey of trying to reconcile, which meant I wanted to forgive him and forgive myself and try and stop talking about what he did, what I did, how horrible he is, and who said what and who didn't do what. And that journey of reconciliation, and I was on the journey on my own because he was in a whole other place. I realized that when I started being deliberate about how I behaved towards my ex-husband at that time, how I, spoke to him, how I felt about him, and how I thought, even about him. And every time we had a conversation, putting my ego aside and trying to actually listen to him, and not trying to listen just to respond or trying to bring back things from the past, something shifted for all of us, for me, for him, and for the kids. And we actually went on a vacation together, and, we were not together, but we tried it out. And that was one of the best vacations that we had, and we could be together and have fun together without, being romantic or anything. So then I got inspired and I thought, okay, maybe we could actually save this relationship. And that was me going on that journey all by myself. And fortunately for me, my husband bought into it, and then, my ex at that time, and we remarried. Actually, we had a relationship and remarried. I think that our relationship was in a really terrible place. We had all the problems that anybody could imagine in a marriage. We had issues with trust, we had issues with communication. So the reason that I got inspired to help others is because I'm thinking, if my marriage that was already divorced and done deal, my husband was in a relationship and we both had our own properties and we had moved on with life. If we could save that marriage, even though it had actually reached the other side, then why not help people before it gets to that place that mine got to? So I do believe strongly that almost every marriage, actually, because there are some depending on the situation, but almost every marriage can be saved. But it requires one person. It doesn't even require two people. It requires one person making that decision that I am going to do the work and I am going to save this relationship. So that's my inspiration. It's my own story. And after my own journey, I have helped actually hundreds of people that are also in challenging situations in marriages. And some of the situations that come are, not easy, but I have seen people decide, I'm going to work through this, I'm going to do the work. And always the other person responds, because everybody wants a happy home anyway. So if one person does the work and brings the relationship to a certain place, the other person usually responds, and then we get, a happy family again. What is more beautiful than a family that is broken being reconciled? So that's my inspiration.
And that's a very, very beautiful story. And I want to commend the two of you for taking the courage and the time to understand that this is not working now and it ultimately ended the way it ended, but it can still work out. And one thing, the way I look at relationships, especially those that are either long-term relationships or marriages, is many times you live in a house together, right? So I look at it as the house that you're living in that has been built, you're building a home within that house. And here's an example I'll give. The house that you're living in that has the bricks, the cement and all this other stuff, the first and foremost, it starts off with the foundation. And that's what you have to look into when it comes to your relationship. Is your foundation strong, or is it at least well prepared? Because you can have foundation that you have the best of intentions, but things come up, right? You may think that I didn't necessarily want to have children, but now I want to have children. If we have children, how are we going to raise these children? So these are conversations that are ongoing. And as you continue to create this home within your house, you begin to realize that I'm okay with this, but I'm not necessarily okay with this. Let's have that communication. And just like how the contractors and everyone communicates with each other to build that house, that's what we have to do as well. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think sometimes it gets lost, right? Like some people say, I have an issue with Claire, but I'm going to and not communicate. I'm going to close off. Whereas if I said, hey, Claire, this is what I'm going through. The way you're talking to me yesterday, I didn't necessarily like the tone of it. Can we have a conversation about it? That isn't unmanly for the men out there. That isn't being submissive like a slave for the woman out there. It's just saying that I have an issue. Can we talk about it? Because you're the person that I love. You're the person who I dedicated my whole life to. So, Claire, when you went through everything with you and your spouse, you guys broke up, you guys divorced, you guys came back together. The way you view your marriage in the last 10 years, is it different than the way you viewed it in the first 10 years?
Oh, yes. And actually, the period from when we broke up until we came back together was 3 years. So the last couple of years, I'm so happy. Our marriage is just, when you launch something, we say 1.0 and we say 2.0. Let's say our first marriage was 1.0. This is 20.0. It is completely different. And I think you don't actually need to get divorced before the marriage can be different. I like something that you said, because that marriage that my husband had, the 1.0, it was a terrible marriage. The first maybe 5 years was okay, but afterwards, nobody should be in a marriage that is like that. We couldn't talk to each other. We were both hurting because we were going through infertility, and yet we couldn't be there for each other. We had so many, challenges just being together. And we were definitely not there supporting each other. We're tearing each other apart. Every conversation was like a criticism of each other, and you did this and you didn't do this. So the whole communication, I mean, we didn't even want to communicate with each other because it was just not fun. And each time we tried to talk to each other and we had an intention to make it good or positive, but we couldn't for whatever reason. We did get help, that's the reason why we were able to stay that long. We did get help from coaches and counselors. But this is also one of the first things that I found out, that having couples counseling is not necessarily the best until you have worked on each other. You have worked individually. So I used to speak a lot to, a psychologist, a psychotherapist, a coach, you name it. And my husband was not necessarily interested, to a very large extent. And I remember one time he went to speak to somebody, and the person convinced him that I was the root of all his problems in the world. So he came to me, told me this, and that was like a big fight in the house. I think that pushed us, the counselor actually pushed us close to the divorce, border than anything else. So we were doing a lot of coaching and counseling together, but individually, I don't think any of us really wanted to do the work because our ego was too alive. Now, on the other side, of the first marriage or the divorce, now we are together again. I can see how each of us are very deliberate and intentional about how we relate to each other. So we talk about things, we talk about it in a respectful way. Of course, there have been issues since we came back together. Even some of the issues that we used to have in the past, some of them sometimes creep up. But we are very intentional. We are respectful of each other. We are on one side. But more importantly, we actually listen to each other, and we also each choose our battles. The truth is, it's not every problem and everything that you want to dig into it. I mean, give yourself 1 week. You have even forgotten what the issue is that you wanted to complain about. So this new marriage that we have, I am so grateful that that marriage ended. To be honest, it was dramatic and it was a terrible divorce. So we could have maybe saved the marriage before it got there, but I'm very happy that we didn't just stay together in that mess that we are in. And this side, the other side, and that's also why I say you can save the marriage, because I didn't find a new man. He didn't find a new woman. It's still the same two people together, but we are able to do it differently and be happy with each other. So it is so different. Even our kids, I mean, my son is old enough, so he saw what happened in the past and he's seeing what is happening now. And he passes comments that, sometimes we look into each other's eyes and say, oh God, this boy is reminding us of the mess that we were in the past. Some of the comments he passes, you realize he noticed how we used to be, and he notices today how we are together. And for me, that even, it warms my heart, because I'm happy that my kids can see that it doesn't always have to be rosy from the beginning. It can be messy, but with the right effort, you can actually create a beautiful story eventually. So yeah, it's totally different. And people that used to know us can also see that, it's, at least we are different to some extent. They may not necessarily understand what is different, but they know that there's a difference between us. At least when we were at that verge of divorce, it was actually not very pleasant to be with us, to be honest. I mean, we were not fighting or screaming with everybody, but you could just feel the tension between the two of us. You could sense that this is not a happy home when nobody is here and it's just the two of us.
Looking back, after you identify that the 5-year mark and things of that nature, as you look back, are you able to pinpoint when you knew that this was the fork in the road, that if I don't do something, it is going to lead to divorce? Are you able to, do you have that type of retrospect now?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we had several pointers along the way. I think the first thing was when we started going through our infertility journey, actually. We both realized that our way of coping with problems was completely different. And not even just as individuals, but also our families. I'm a Black girl, my husband is a white man. So there was also all these cultural differences in between for us. And I mean, I appear to be a very talkative, open person, but I'm very private with my problems. My husband is a very calm, you would maybe call him an introvert, but he likes to talk about his problems openly with everybody. So that was the start of the mess. It's like, I'm like, why are you going around telling everybody that I'm doing IVF treatments? This is my body, leave me alone. I don't want to talk about it, not even with my own mom. And he would talk to his mom about it, and she would ask me extremely private questions. So already at that time, we knew, we are in for a ride here. And we started seeking help, actually, and we did get help. But then the infertility journey, it just went on for a very long time. So all our, mechanisms, we exhausted all our defense systems, all our strength. We exhausted it along the way. And when you exhaust it like that, you need to be there for each other. And we weren't at all. I don't remember us actually sitting down and having sane conversations about the whole infertility. As soon as one person starts, the other person is like, you're blaming me. Why are you blaming me for this? Why are you telling me it's my fault? And I'm like, I didn't say that. Or he would say, I didn't say that. So we simply couldn't even talk about it. And so that was the first part. And then after, we had gone on for a while, I think both of us we did some terrible things, I'm not going to go into the details of that. So that was another, fork in the journey where we thought, we have trust issues here. And so we had to also deal with that. And I don't think we dealt with it properly. So we just moved on. Both my husband and I, we are very, I'll use the word, we are very determined people. So we were still determined to make this marriage work. And then we got to a point after we had my son, we had 2 kids and my son is the first one. I got to a point where I was like, this is not working. Let's just, separate. And my husband did not believe in separation. He said, either we divorce or we are together. What's this thing in between? So he basically dictated and then we stayed together because at that time I was not ready for divorce, but I knew that this was not working for me. He knew it was not working for him, but we were both cowards. Let me use that word. So we both just stayed in it until my daughter came. And that was, or until I actually became pregnant with my daughter. That was the point in the marriage where I was like, either I'm going to kill him or he's going to kill me, So even though he says he doesn't want a separation, I think a separation could be a good solution for us to be apart for a while. And I actually agree with him that a separation was not going to be good for us. We were just going to be in limbo for years because we had been in limbo for years. So my quest for separation, if I should be honest, was just leave me alone so that I can date other men. That was my ulterior motive behind it. And he was thinking, no, if you go date other men, that's it, I'm done, then I'm also going to date somebody else. So we actually got to that point where I said, if you're not going to make us talk about it in a good way, if you're not going to let us talk about divorce, then I'm just going to file for divorce. And we live in a country where you can get divorced in seconds online, actually. So that's what happened. I went online, filed for the divorce, and the other person just needs to press, the button, and then it's done. And he delayed it for a while. He's like, are you really sure? Are you really sure? And I'm like, every day I call him, I'll be just like, just give me that divorce, And we eventually got divorced. So there were several steps along the way. And each step, I would say that if we had the right help, because we both really wanted to stay in the marriage, but we both also knew that we didn't know what to do about it. We had tried different things and it was just not working. And I will say that one of the main things that is, also what I normally coach people in is that one person has to make the decision that I want to do the work. I think my husband was that person that did not want a divorce no matter what. But he also didn't want to do the work. He was not going to let his guard down. He was not going to listen to me. So even though you have the intention, if you don't do the work that comes with the intention, you will just not be able to save the marriage. So when we got to the other side where I decided that, my ego I have a very big ego, but I'm going to put my ego down here. I'm going to just be quiet when he's talking. I'm just going to try and hear things from his point of view. I'm going to try not to be right for once, and not focus on whether I'm right or wrong or who is right. but focus on what is the outcome that I wanted. And that outcome I wanted in that situation was reconciliation. I was like, I need us to get along. I need not to hate you this much. And I need you not to hate me this much. I need us to get along. I need us to go for holidays together. I need us to have sane conversations. I need to be able to call you if I need you to take the kids one evening because I have a late work, engagement or something like that. So I need us to reconcile. And that required me to actually really put myself down and humble myself. And it was not in a negative way, because like I said, as soon as I started being a nicer person, he also responded. So it didn't take very long. And he also started being actually a very loving person towards me, even though we were not in a relationship at all. So I think what people miss, to be honest, is the fact that they assume the worst from the other person. Everybody's healing, everybody's hurting in that situation. If one person decides to consistently be loving, typically the other person actually responds because they also want to love you. They also want to be nice. But I mean, let's be honest. I wasn't a very nice person to my husband towards the end. Neither was he towards me. So then there is a lot of hurt. There is a lot of pain, and everybody puts their guard up, and then it doesn't work. So yeah, there were different times in the journey that we could have done something different to save the marriage, but none of us were interested in doing it. That's the honest truth.
For those who are watching on YouTube, Facebook, and my social media, please subscribe, share, and like. And remember to stay tuned for more incredible interviews like the one we have with my new best friend, Claire. And we will be back for more.